Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive into the world of email CTAs.
Oh, yeah, those buttons and links, right.
The ones that tell your readers what to do next. It's not just slapping a buy now on everything, though. We're going to uncover how to make those CTAs really effective, especially for those of you running an online business.
I bet.
Our guide today is a really great article from blogwidow.com.
Cool.
It's called How to Create Effective Email CTAs for Online Businesses. And it's dated February 10th, 2025. Get ready for some pretty surprising stats and actionable tips that you can use to immediately level up your email game.
I think what's often overlooked is that a CTA isn't just about getting the click. It's about understanding what motivates the person on the other end of that click.
That's a great point. So to kick things off, let's get back to basics for a second. We see CTAs everywhere online, but how would you define them specifically in the context of email marketing?
Well, in the simplest terms, a CTA is anything in your email that prompts your reader to take a specific action, like a button, a link, even just a phrase. It's like saying, hey, here's what you should do next. Think of the classics. Download, shop now, get your free quote.
Okay, so those are all familiar examples. But the article really digs into the power of strong action words. It's not just about using any old verb, right?
Exactly. You want language that compels the reader to take action. Strong verbs create a sense of immediacy and direction. Download is more engaging than click here because it focuses on the value the reader gets.
It's like painting a picture of the outcome, not just the click itself.
Precisely. And there's a fascinating study that found personalized CTAs can convert over 200% better than generic ones. That's huge.
200%. Wow, I knew personalization was important, but that really drives it home. So how do we actually personalize these CTAs effectively? What are some tactics that go beyond just adding someone's name?
Adding the recipient's name is a great starting point. It instantly adds that personal touch. But you can also tailor the CTA based on their past behavior. For example, let's say you have an online clothing store, and someone keeps browsing your new arrivals for dresses. Your next email to them could have a CTA like, check out the latest dresses.
So it's about recognizing their interests and making the CTA hyper-relevant.
Right. It shows you're paying attention, and that can make a big difference. This is where marketing automation tools can be really helpful. They allow you to segment your audience and tailor those CTAs on a larger scale.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you have a large email list. Now, the article also talks about creating a sense of urgency. We've all seen those limited time offer messages. Does that tactic really work?
It absolutely can. Phrases like limited time offer or only a few spots left tap into our fear of missing out, that classic FOMO, but you have to be careful not to overuse it.
So if every email screams urgency, it loses its impact, right? It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Exactly. You want to strategically use urgency, particularly for time-sensitive promotions, when immediate action is genuinely valuable to the reader.
Okay, so it's about finding that sweet spot between creating genuine excitement and not coming across as pushy or inauthentic. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about design. The article stresses that your CTA needs to stand out visually. How do you actually achieve that?
This is where design really comes into play. You want to make sure your CTA button doesn't get lost in the visual clutter of your email. You can do this by using contrasting colors so your CTA button pops against the background, and making sure the button is big enough to be easily clickable, but not so huge that it overwhelms the email.
So it's about finding that balance, making it prominent, but not overwhelming. And I've heard that white space is important too.
Yes, white space can be incredibly powerful. Giving your CTA some breathing room by surrounding it with white space makes it more prominent. Think of it like giving your CTA its own spotlight on the stage. I love that analogy. So you're guiding the reader's eye right to where you want them to go. Now, the article also dives into using multiple CTAs in a single email. I've always wondered if that's a good idea. Could it be helpful to offer different options? Or could it be overwhelming?
It's definitely a balancing act. Too many choices can overwhelm the reader and paralyze them into inaction. The article suggests sticking to one primary CTA that reflects the main action you want the reader to take, and maybe one or two secondary CTAs.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, we're trying to avoid that analysis paralysis, right? Could you give an example of how a primary and secondary CTA might work together?
Absolutely. Let's say you're sending an email about your new line of organic skincare products. Your primary CTA could be shop the new collection and get 20% off. That's the main action you want people to take. But you could also include a secondary CTA like learn more about our organic ingredients, for those who might not be ready to buy but are interested in knowing more about your brand's values. I see. So you're catering to people at different stages of their journey with your brand. giving them options without overwhelming them.
Exactly. You want to be mindful of the overall user experience and make sure your CTAs enhance that experience rather than detract from it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
It's about being strategic and really thinking about what's going to resonate with your audience. Now, I love that the article emphasizes A/B testing. I've heard of that, but I've never really understood how it works. Can you break it down for me and our listener in a way that's easy to grasp?
A/B testing is like running a little experiment to see what works best. You create two slightly different versions of something, in this case, your CTA, and send it to two different segments of your audience. Then you track which version performs better.
So it's a data-driven way to figure out what resonates with your audience, right?
Exactly. You might test different wordings for your CTAs, like get started today versus start your free trial. Or you could test different button colors. Maybe a green button performs better than a blue button.
So if my data shows that people click more on the green button, I know to stick with green, right?
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of the equation. You're letting the data guide your decisions, so you're constantly learning and refining your approach.
That's so powerful. Data can be so helpful when you know how to use it effectively.
Hmm.
Now, there's another point in the article that I think is incredibly important. Matching the CTA to the email's purpose. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
This is crucial for creating a cohesive and positive user experience. You want to ensure that your CTA aligns with the overall goal of your email campaign. Think about it this way. If you're sending an educational email about a new feature you've just launched, your CTA shouldn't be buy now. That wouldn't make sense, right?
Yeah, that would feel really jarring. What am I buying? You haven't even told me all the cool things about this new feature yet.
Right. Instead, your CTA might be something like, learn more about this feature or try it out today. Something that encourages further engagement and aligns with the educational purpose of the email.
So it's all about creating that seamless experience for the reader. The CTA should feel like a natural next step in their journey with your brand. Now, we can't wrap up this section without talking about mobile friendliness. It's such a big deal these days with so many people checking their email on their phones.
Absolutely. If your CTA isn't optimized for mobile, you're potentially missing out on a huge segment of your audience. It's no longer an afterthought, it's a must-have.
So when we're talking about mobile-friendly CTAs, what are some key things to keep in mind? What makes a CTA truly mobile-friendly?
Well, for starters, the button size needs to be big enough to be easily tapped with a finger on a touchscreen. Ideally, you want a button that's at least 44 by 44 pixels. I don't know if you've ever tried to tap a tiny button on your phone, but it can be incredibly frustrating.
Oh, totally. I've definitely been there squinting at my screen trying to hit that minuscule button. Talk about a bad user experience.
Exactly. And you also need to ensure there's adequate spacing around the button to prevent accidental clicks on other links. The last thing you want is for someone to click the wrong thing because your CTA is crammed in too tightly.
Spacing is so crucial, especially on a smaller screen. Now, the article mentions a few specific tactics that can really boost conversions, but I think the one that stood out to me the most was personalization. Can you tell us a little more about how personalization can really make a difference when it comes to CTAs?
You know, personalization is all about making your readers feel like you're speaking directly to them, to their needs and interests. It goes beyond just dropping their name into the email. It's about understanding their behavior and tailoring the message accordingly.
So how can we go beyond just using someone's name? What are some other ways to make a CTA feel truly personalized?
Let's imagine you have an online bookstore. You could segment your audience based on their past purchases or browsing history. So if someone has been browsing books on gardening, you could send them an email with a CTA like, "Bloom into spring with our gardening bestsellers." You're acknowledging their interest and offering them something they're likely to be interested in.
Ah, I see. It's like you're anticipating their needs based on their past actions. That feels way more personal than a generic Shop Now button.
Exactly. Another way to personalize is to use dynamic content, which changes based on who's receiving the email. So you could display different CTAs based on someone's location, demographics, or past engagement with your emails.
Wow, dynamic content sounds super powerful. And all of this really ties into the idea of aligning your CTA with the email's purpose, right? If you understand your audience and their needs, you can craft CTAs that truly resonate with them and guide them towards the action you want them to take.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about creating a cohesive experience for your reader, whether it's nurturing a relationship or driving a sale.
Now, I know we talked a bit about A/B testing earlier, but can you delve a little deeper into how we can actually run effective A/B tests on our CTAs? It all sounds a bit technical to me.
It might sound intimidating, but it's actually pretty straightforward. There are tons of tools out there that make A/B testing super easy. Basically, you create two different versions of your CTA. Maybe you change the wording, the color, or the placement. And your email marketing platform will automatically split your audience and send each version to a different segment. Then you can track which version gets more clicks.
So it's like a head-to-head competition to see which CTA reigns supreme. And the beauty of it is you're letting the data guide your decisions, not just your gut feeling.
Exactly. And you can get really granular with your testing. For example, you could test different shades of blue for your CTA button to see which one performs best, or you could experiment with different button shapes. You might be surprised at what you discover.
This is all so insightful. But I'm curious, how do we know when a CTA is truly effective? What metrics should we be paying attention to?
It's not just about click-through rates, although that's certainly important. You also want to look at your conversion rates, meaning how many people who click on your CTA actually complete the desired action, whether that's making a purchase, signing up for a webinar, or downloading a resource.
So it's about looking at the bigger picture, the entire customer journey. You want to see how your CTA is contributing to your overall business goals.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot between getting the click and driving meaningful engagement. This reminds me of a campaign I worked on a few years back for an online education platform. We were promoting a new course on digital marketing, and we were struggling to get people to sign up.
Ooh, I love a good marketing story. What did you do to turn things around?
Well, we started by A/B testing different CTAs. We tried variations like enroll now, learn more, and start your free trial. We also experimented with different button colors and placements within the email. And to our surprise, the CTA that performed the best wasn't the one we expected.
Really? Which one was it?
It was get your first lesson free. We initially thought it might be too long or too specific, but it ended up resonating the most with our audience. And when we looked at the data, we realized that people who clicked on that CTA were more likely to actually enroll in the full course.
So it was more enticing to offer a taste of the course for free.
Exactly. It lowered the barrier to entry and allowed people to experience the value of the course before committing to the full thing.
That's such a brilliant example of how A/B testing can reveal unexpected insights. So the lesson here is to be open to trying new things and letting the data guide your decisions. And sometimes the most effective CTAs are the ones that address a specific pain point or offer a tangible benefit.
Absolutely. It's about putting yourself in your audience's shoes and thinking, what would make me want to click on this?
Now, before we move on to our final thoughts for this deep dive, I want to touch on something we haven't really discussed yet: the psychology of color. I've heard that the color of your CTA button can actually influence how people perceive it. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole psychology behind choosing the right colors for your website and marketing materials. You're absolutely right. Color psychology is a fascinating field, and it plays a significant role in how people perceive and respond to your CTAs. For instance, you might associate green with growth, harmony, and freshness. So it's often used for CTAs related to health, wellness, or sustainability.
So if I'm promoting a new line of organic skincare products, a green CTA button might subconsciously convey those positive associations, right?
Exactly. On the other hand, blue is often associated with trust, security, and dependability, so it's frequently used by financial institutions and tech companies.
Okay, so the color blue could be a good choice for a CTA like secure your spot now or sign up for a free consultation.
Precisely. And then you have colors like red and orange, which are often associated with urgency and excitement. They can be very effective for time-sensitive promotions or limited-time offers.
So that limited time only flash sale might really pop with a red or orange CTA button.
Exactly. But like with everything else we've discussed, it's about finding the right balance. You don't want to overuse bright, attention-grabbing colors, or they can become overwhelming and even off-putting.
So it's all about using color strategically and thoughtfully to enhance the overall message and user experience.
Precisely. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of email CTAs, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Ooh, I love a good thought-provoking question. Hit me with it.
Think about the psychology behind your target audience.
Oh.
What motivates them? What are their pain points? What are their aspirations? Tapping into these deeper drivers can lead to incredibly compelling CTAs.
That's such a brilliant point. It's not just about writing clever copy or designing a flashy button. It's about truly understanding your audience and what makes them tick.
Exactly. When you understand what drives your audience, you can craft CTAs that resonate deeply and inspire action.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of the power of CTAs and how to make them truly effective.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you. Remember, the key is to experiment, analyze your results, and never stop learning.
And all our listeners out there, go forth and create email CTAs that convert. Experiment, have fun, and watch your engagement soar.
Until next time, happy emailing.